just never knew how to tell you.
I would be able to talk about my life.
I ever loved a vodka.
I have two moms.
You want me to say it out loud?
My name is Pauline Park. I was born in Milwaukee, Korea in October 1960. I have an older twin brother. It was Chuseok, the harvest season. I was born in Korea in 1960 and adopted at 8 months old by European American parents, along with my brother. My father was second generation Norwegian American from Chicago, and my mother was third generation German American from Milwaukee. We grew up on the south side of Milwaukee, which back in the 1960s and 70s was an all-white neighborhood. Our first school, the grade school we went to, was all white. My brother and I were the only non-white children in that entire elementary school.
1965.
1965.
South Clement Avenue School.
The south side of Milwaukee.
It's the first day of kindergarten. All the girls in my class are wearing stretch pants with stirrups. Later, I ask my mother if she'll buy me a pair. She looks at me in absolute shock.
But those are for girls.
I decide that wanting to dress like a girl or wanting to be a girl is something that I will have to hide. I am 5 years old. I think I was probably born to have an identity complex because I am not only transgendered but also an intercountry adoptee, a transracial adoptee, my parents, adoptive parents being white. It was a challenge. Our parents loved us, my brother and me, as much as any children that they would have. In fact, we were the only children that they had. I knew that I wouldn't grow up looking like either of them. But there were no Asian adults in our frame of reference. I didn't know any Asian or Asian American adults until I became an adult myself. Our mother was a waitress in a Chinese restaurant downtown Milwaukee. There were no Korean restaurants in Milwaukee until our senior year of high school. And in fact, our mother took us to this Korean restaurant called the Blue Tower, which opened up, as I say, when we were already seniors in high school. And I actually found the food rather odd. I'd never tried Korean before. But our mother, in her youth, had worked as a waitress in a Chinese restaurant downtown. And so she would take us at least once a year to this restaurant, and the restaurant's owner, her old boss, would come and greet us and shower us with little gifts and all. And that was really, frankly, our only contact with Asians other than through my reading about them.
December 7, 1970.
My brother and I are the only non-white children in our school and in our neighborhood. Most families in our community have relatives who served in World War II, like our father did. Every year, I dread Pearl Harbor Day. Every year, other children will taunt us, call us names, and throw things at us. The fact that we're Korean and not Japanese doesn't matter. That's the house right there. This is the house I grew up in on South Clement Avenue on the south side of Milwaukee. It looks pretty much the way it did when we were growing up, at least from the front. This is the alley behind our old house. The neighborhood at the time was very German American and Polish American, mostly Catholic. It still is. It's a good place to get sauerkraut and potato salad and kielbasa, which is Polish sausage, and punchki, which are Polish jelly donuts, filled jelly donuts. Now this is the garage of our old house and the chain link fence that they put up. When we were growing up, it had a white picket fence, the classic white picket fence. People often assume that I was raised in Korea or in a Korean American household. Often when I meet people for the first time, they say,
"Oh, you speak really good English. How long have you lived in America?"
it's hard to explain that I was raised in Milwaukee in a white Lutheran German-American family and that I don't speak Korean. I end up feeling like a fake Korean. I'm not Korean enough for the Koreans and not American enough for the Americans. And that's it. You can drop us off right behind that dumpster. And this is it. This is fine, thanks. So this is Bayview High School. This is where I went to high school from 1976 to 1978, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. High school was not a wonderful experience, but it was a better experience than junior high. When I was here at Bayview, there was a female student named Laura who was on the basketball team, and she was so butch. I kind of wonder what happened to her, and I wonder if she's now transitioned and come out as a trans man. But I remember everyone would make fun of her because she was so masculine and so large. And I realized at the time that I had some sort of distant affinity to her, even if she didn't recognize it herself, because she was so gender variant, just like me. But I tried to hide my gender variance as much as I could back then and fit in. Fortunately, orchestra was a really good environment for not dealing with those issues. It was sort of the safe cocoon when I was here in high school. In junior high, I realized I was attracted to other males, but it was in high school during those years that I realized that there was really no turning back. And I came out to myself at the age of 16 when I was a sophomore here at Bayview. I didn't come out to anyone else, not to my brother or my family or any other students.
1978.
My brother and I are applying to college. I want to go to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Our mother thinks this is too far away and too liberal. She tries to bribe us to stay at home and attend the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. She offers to buy us a car. I say,
What about our cousin Marcia? She went to Madison and didn't come back a radical, a hippie, or pregnant. She even married a Lutheran minister.
in the end, we get full scholarships to Madison, so she agrees to let us go. But she does make one more request.
Promise me that you'll come home virgins.
My brother promises. I don't.
We were 18. It was our first semester as undergraduates, as freshmen at the University of Wisconsin. And she, who was then he, had been a little bit elusive in our first month or two of school and had all sorts of friends, and I couldn't quite figure out where they were from because some of them were older and they weren't from classes or from our dorms. At that same time, I realized within the first 2 months that I was gay. So I actually came out to Pauline and Paul, who said, "Oh yeah, well I'm gay too." So it was
No, that's not how it happened.
that's not how it happened.
No, I came out to you first.
Oh, okay. Well,
What happened was, I came out as gay really the very first month at Madison, at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. There was a little gay center in the basement of the church that was directly across the street from campus. And I joined a little coming out support group. And I remember quite clearly it was December, and my brother and I were having dinner in the dormitory cafeteria, and I came out to him as gay, and he seemed a bit surprised, but took it very calmly, and about a month later, then he came out to me.
1979.
Halloween is a huge event in Madison. It's also the only time of year it's okay for boys to dress as girls. My lover's roommate lets me borrow some of her clothes for Halloween. It's my first time going out in public dressed as a woman, and I love it. When I arrive at a Halloween party, my friend opens the door and says,
I can't stand it when a guy looks better in a dress than I do.
1982.
I'm studying in London. There I meet Bernard. He's a perfect English gentleman. He's cultured, well-spoken. He works at the BBC. He even has a harpsichord. Soon I move in with Bernard. I will live with him for 1 year.
1982.
London.
I'm 22 years old. I begin going out in public dressed as a woman. It's a completely liberating experience. For the first time, I'm able to present myself as how I see myself. Unfortunately, Bernard doesn't understand this part of me. He's afraid that I will want to get sex reassignment surgery.
I think that I was probably born transgendered, whatever that means. I knew I was transgendered from the age of 4. There was never any time that I wasn't aware of being different. I think, second, that certainly by the age of around 6, as many experts suggest, gender identity and possibly sexual orientation become fairly fixed, fairly determined. But I think that the choice that we do have is whether to come out. I don't think I ever made a choice to be transgendered, but I certainly made a choice to affirm my gender identity and to live in the full dignity and integrity of my identity as a transgendered woman. And then...
What are you doing in buckets?
I don't know. Our mother thought it was cute that we'd be in put buckets on our heads, carrying buckets and then having buckets on our heads.
Is this Christmas?
So this is Lana, a friend of mine. She's actually my oldest friend. Really, that's true. You are my... I've known you longer than anyone outside my family. Yeah, it's true. Lana and I met in kindergarten with Miss Icky.
Icky Sticky Bubblegum.
That's right. We called her Miss Icky Sticky Bubblegum. So, yeah, I've known Lana since kindergarten. And, reconnecting with her after 28 years has been really special.
It's a little different, though.
A little bit different. I think I'd probably win the prize at our 30th high school anniversary for most changed.
Most unexpected.
Yes, most unexpected. Yes, yes.
Well, it was over brunch with Mark, somewhere between, are you going to have eggs and what are you doing tomorrow? Was, oh, by the way, I should really tell you about Paul. And my reaction was, what? I couldn't absorb it. It was so foreign to me. And I didn't fully comprehend it or understand it or even accept it. I could accept it intellectually, but internalize it and know it's a complete non-issue until she walked in the door at my apartment. I thought, okay, this night, and that was in April. So I've known for about 2 years, and this April, when we met up for dinner, and the minute she walked in the door, it was like, we've seen an old girlfriend, and it was not at all the reaction I expected. I thought this could be a really stiff night, and not at all. It was great. It was great. It was like seeing an old friend who had become far more interesting.
1997.
I knew that I was transgendered when I was 5 years old. I've always wanted to live as a woman. Now is the right time. I've moved, I've gone through a career change, and I'm ready to transition.
1997.
There are many ways one can transition from male to female. I decide I don't need hormones or sex reassignment surgery to live as a woman. This is somewhat unusual within the transgender community, but I'm comfortable with who I am.
1997.
I must choose a new name for my new identity. At first, I think about using my Korean birth name, but any Korean would immediately recognize it as a male name. So I decide to use my Korean family name, Park, and Pauline, which is a feminine version of my adopted name, Paul. I practice my signature over and over again.
Pauline Park.
Pauline Park.
Pauline Park.
Pauline Park.
Pauline Park.
The act of naming oneself is one of the most powerful acts of self-construction and self-empowerment in which one can engage.
I think in the beginning it was more kind of like, I want to try this or I want to do this. So it wasn't dramatic, and it wasn't as if this was like, you know, as the saying goes, Athena springing from the forehead of Zeus, full blown. It was an emergence. So the more we talked about it over a number of conversations, over a number of months, you know, I began to get the strong sense that this was something important for her, and it wasn't probably going to be a momentary thing.
I don't experience any differences. To me, Pauline has always been Pauline, even when I knew her as another identity. Her energy, her spirit, her politics, nothing has shifted in that way. What shifted is she's now all of whom she is all the time. And so there wasn't any change. I mean, Pauline has always had all those qualities she has now. She just has more of those qualities and is stronger and more clear. There's some physical changes.
The appearance change.
The appearance change.
She used to have to put on the boy drag, and now she can be who she is and dress the way she wants to. So.
I think that at first it's a little bit hard. I mean, one just forgets. And I think that it takes time. And it also takes a certain level of acceptance that I think can only come with time. And I hope that most transgendered people understand that too. It's not a form of rejection, but it takes us a while to be able to integrate and synthesize the awareness of a loved one or someone we're close to choosing a different name and a different pronoun.
We call NYAGRA a transgender advocacy organization for short. But our mission is really to fight for freedom of gender expression and identity for all. It's about legal rights, but it's also about social justice and social change. It's about nothing less than transforming the way society thinks about gender. As I like to say, my work in NYAGRA is not about helping a few post-op transsexuals fit more comfortably in the existing boxes of heteronormativity. It's about helping all of us break out of the boxes to be who we really are. So I'd like to leave you with this thought. Even if you're not transgendered, transgender is your issue too. So join us in this cause because it's your cause too.
My activism and advocacy work really started in 1994 when I came here to New York for Stonewall 25 in June 1994. Which was the 25th anniversary of the Stonewall Rebellion. GAPIMNI, the Gay Asian Pacific Islander Men of New York, hosted a conference called the Rights Conference for Gay Asians. And in one of the workshops, 3 gay Asian men from Chicago were complaining about the gay Asian group in Chicago, which was really more an Asians and Friends type organization. It was called Asians and Friends Chicago, which I'd actually been a member of many years before. And so at one point I simply said, well, if it's really not what you're looking for, why don't you start your own organization? And that is how we started GAPIC, Gay Asians and Pacific Islanders of Chicago.
1997.
I become more involved with activism. There's a need for more understanding and acceptance of transgendered people. I co-found Queens Pride House, a center for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered people in Queens, and Iban, Queer Koreans of New York.
When I think back on my activism and my advocacy work, I can't think of one single incident that served as a catalyst for my activism, or a single person or book or movie that inspired me. I think it was really a whole lifetime of experiences that served as a catalyst for my activism and advocacy work. I really didn't consciously choose to become an activist in the way that I had consciously chosen an academic career before my activism. But I gradually became drawn into community organizing work. When I first began work as an activist here in New York, people still talked about the lesbian and gay community. But in the 10 years since I've been living here and working as an activist for the last 8.5 or so, the term LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, has become very much standard. And I think that reflects an increasing acceptance of transgendered people in the queer community. I think it also reflects an increasing incorporation of transgender rights into the larger agenda of the LGBT community. And that is really a sign, I think, of the success of the transgender community, and I might add of NYAGRA in particular as an organization. We took steps, specific steps, to push for a change of name from lesbian, gay to LGBT. For example, with the center, which when I moved here was called the Lesbian Gay Community Services Center. But partly because of internal work and partly because of external pressure from NYAGRA and a coalition that we formed called the Coalition for Unity and Inclusion, the center changed its name to LGBT Community Center. Heritage of Pride changed the name of all of its events from Lesbian and Gay Pride March to LGBT Pride March, LGBT Pride Rally, etc. And finally, the New Fest, which used to be the New York Lesbian Gay Film Festival, is now the New York LGBT Film Festival. So these are all signs and indications of the increasing progress of the transgender community as a political movement. When we founded NYAGRA, the New York Association for Gender Rights Advocacy, in 1998, we launched the campaign for what later became known as Intro Number 24, the Transgender Rights Bill, which, when it was enacted in April 2002, added gender identity and expression to New York City human rights law. So people in the 5 boroughs are now protected from discrimination based on gender identity or gender expression. That includes transgendered and gender variant people, but it really protects anyone from discrimination based on gender identity or expression in employment, in housing, in public accommodations, education, credit.
2002.
After years of work by NYAGRA and other organizations, the New York City Council passes a bill amending city human rights law to prohibit discrimination based on gender identity or expression.
Mayor Bloomberg signs the bill into law. I participate in the signing ceremony. The new law is a huge victory for the transgender community, but there is still much, much more work to do.
I coordinated the campaign for that legislation, but I never expected to be one of the very first people to benefit from it. What happened was, in April of 2004, I was at the Manhattan Mall. We went downstairs to the basement of the Manhattan Mall where the food court is. And I went to the ladies' room before lunch to wash my hands and all. Came out, we had lunch, and then I went back to the women's room and had no problems whatsoever. There was no indication that any of the women in the women's room had any issue with me being there, that they had even read me, as it were. In other words, it's not clear to me that any of them even realized that I was transgendered. When I came out of the ladies' room, I was surrounded by 5 security guards, 4 men and 1 woman, and the men were much taller than I, much bigger than me, and they surrounded me in this very hostile stance. And the woman security guard demanded to know if I was a woman or a man. And I said to her, well, I'm a woman. I identify as a woman. And then they sort of relaxed a bit, and I threw out the possibility of a lawsuit, which made him a little bit nervous. I got his number and his name and the name of the security guard, the woman security guard, who had detained me and asked me the question. I walked out of the Manhattan Mall feeling a bit shaken by the whole experience, because I actually rarely have problems in the ladies' room. I'm fortunate in that regard. The friends who I came with said to me, well, it's pretty clear that they didn't know who they were talking to. They obviously picked on the wrong tranny.
2005.
I'm the first openly transgendered person to be Grand Marshal. It's a huge honor. It feels like the culmination of my many years of activism. The day of the parade is hot as hell. I'm wearing a new gown, riding in a Rolls Royce, leading off a parade in front of more than 2 million people. They're all screaming my name.
Pauline, Pauline, wave over here. Pauline, Pauline, smile for the camera.
It's a heady moment, let me tell you. But I decide I'm not going to let it go to my head.
Pauline has, in my experience, the most unique ability to figure out how you can make change quickly, systemically, on a whole host of issues related to multiple oppressions. And so she can target issues related to genderism, heterosexism, racism, and put them all together right away. She helped to co-found the Out People of Color Political Action Committee in New York City, a lesbian gay Korean group, NYAGRA. She's been involved in all sorts of things, and she's developed an international reputation for the ability to make change happen effectively.
To me, Pauline is a person with vision. She has done so many presentations and giving so many different speeches, and we have been in several of her presentations, and I was pretty impressed by the way she's able to organize her thoughts with lots of research and lots of very point by point and well organized presentation to really lay out issues and help people see what she's trying to bring people to.
Well, it seems to me that the transgender community has really very few activists who are effective and who are skilled. And so I think she's made a tremendous contribution to the transgender cause because of her selflessness, her integrity, her intelligence, all these wonderful characteristics she has. And I think at the core she's a very, really a very selfless and a very spiritual person. So I think she's made tremendous contributions. I wish she were much more recognized than she is.
I guess I would say this. The one area of my life that I'm not particularly optimistic about is this particular area of love and romance, because I need a man who's willing to be open about who his partner is, namely me. That's the limiting factor. I really, frankly, have no particular preference with regard to men, whether they're gay, straight, bi, or what have you. You would be surprised, perhaps amazed, how many men there are who are interested in transgendered women, and particularly transgendered Asian women. That is a big, big plus in the tranny chasing market. They just love their Asian trannies. You wouldn't believe. As I like to say, when I was a gay boy, I had all these rice queens who were chasing after me. Now I have tranny chasers, and on occasion I even have tranny chasing rice queens. So what I find myself in is this small niche market of tranny chasers, which I find really limiting. And I really dislike being constricted in that particular way.
2007.
The visit to my childhood home shows me how far I've come since I lived in that little white house on the south side of Milwaukee. Since then, I've consciously reconstructed my identity, first coming out as a gay man, then as a transgendered woman, forming an identity as a Korean adoptee, and becoming an activist and public figure. I have lived in Chicago, London, Berlin, Brussels, and Paris. Now I'm proud to call New York my home. It is where I feel most fully myself. I am a transgendered woman.
It was good.